All right, it is 6 o'clock. We are resuming our special meeting, and number 3 on the agenda is a presentation for the revaluation 2026.
Is this on?
Yeah, I think it's on. Looks on.
Hi, how are you? My name is Vicki Rose. I'm the assessor, and this is Tyler Devine, and he's the assistant assessor. And I'll be talking about the revaluation that's coming up for October 1st of 2026. So, why do we perform a revaluation? So, revals are mandated by Connecticut General Statute 12-62, stating that revals must occur every 5 years. The primary purpose of a reval is to eliminate any assessment inequities that may have developed since the previous reval. This is accomplished by updating assessments of real property to reflect their fair market values as of October 1st of the revaluation year. The purpose of a reval is not to raise taxes. The purpose is to create an equitable distribution of the tax load. So the current reval date for Enfield is October 1st of 2021. Enfield has contracted Vision Government Solutions to assist us with the 2026 revaluation. Enfield's 2026 revaluation will update assessment values to a new revaluation date of October 1st of 2026. The grand list, which is the sum of all assessed property in town, will change, which it does annually. But in a reval year, the changes in the grand list are much more significant than in years when there is no revaluation. Real estate assessments are calculated by taking 70% of the 100% fair market value. For example, if your house is valued at $300,000, 70% of the $300,000 is $210,000. So property owners can expect data collectors from Vision Government Solutions will be conducting inspections for properties that have recently sold and properties that have pulled building permits to confirm the accuracy of property characteristics. Data mailers will also be sent to property owners to confirm the property characteristics. The accurate data is vital to accurate values. Notices will be mailed out in November of 2026, notifying the homeowners of their new assessments. All property owners are given an opportunity to discuss their value with the assessor staff or Vision Government Solutions during an informal hearing process. Times and dates are towards the end of the reval. And as most of us are aware, housing prices have been on the rise since 2021. On the next few slides, we have examples of houses that were sold in 2021, then resold in 2025 to show how some home values have changed over the past 4 years. Not all property change at the same rate. The first example is a ranch that sold in August of 2021 for $275,000. It resold recently in September of 2025 for $329,000, so that's an increase of 20%. The next example is a Colonial, which sold in December of 2021 for $386,000 and then sold again in September of 2025 for $500,000, which is an increase of 30%. And then this is a Cape, the next one, and that sold in November of 21 for $294,000 and then sold again in July of 2025 for $395,000, which is a 34% increase. The next is a condo, which sold in November of 21 for $180,000 and then sold again in April of 25 for $260,000, which is a 44% increase. And the last one is a another Cape, I guess, sold in January of '21 for $160, and then sold again in September of '25 for $285,000. So that would be a 78% increase. So the revaluation is at an early process now. They take sales for the prior year of the reval date, going back to 2 years. So it would be impossible to say with certainty how much assessments will be going up or down. The analyzing of the data hasn't yet occurred because sales are ongoing through October of 2026. And the market could change before October 1st of 2026. So we have no way of knowing what the market will do. So do you guys have any questions?
Thank you. We'll get to questions. And will this be on our website as a sort of a link to this sort of presentation as well, so they can hear it and watch it if they want? We thank you very much. And I think
Okay.
it's really important for people to know this is sort of the first of several times we're going to ask you to come back in the next year or so to give us sort of an update of what to expect and
Okay.
where we are in the process of the revow, so people really understand what's happening. So thank you very much.
Okay.
I saw Counselor Pisner's hand, and then
So just for my own knowledge.
Uh-huh.
I never thought that the revaluation went on what property sold for. Because if you look at, like, my field card, I've been in my house for 47 years, obviously. But when you look at a field card, you see what it sold, but that isn't always necessarily what it's assessed at.
Right, because they're taking the sales of all the property, and they're building tables based on that sale. So the characteristics of your house,
Yeah, so it's not, your single property is not based on what it sold for. It's a data point in a large data set to give us an idea of what, and these were just to kind of lay out to let you know kind of where the market's going. So it's not your house sells for $310,000, your value is $310,000.
Right, because, where a house, where a house is located matters, and
Right.
that kind of thing. So I'm putting on my insurance hat because I did that for 25 years, and so when I would have to do an insurance value, it was a certain amount per square footage, $200,000 per, to rebuild the house, and that's where we would come up with the value to insure it. And we used to come in pretty close to what the houses were assessed at that time. But I'm just looking at some of this, and for the people listening in the outside world, these numbers look a little scary. I just don't want people to be afraid. I mean, this is kind of scary.
well, the market's gone up.
Well, I understand.
And so it's based on the market.
I didn't realize that the evaluation went so closely to what the sale price was. I thought that there was a data where so many rooms, a fireplace, how many bathrooms, that kind of thing, were more than just what the sale price is. Went into what a house was assessed at.
Right.
Those characteristics all contribute
Yeah.
to the value of a home. It's not just based on the sale price. Mass appraisal is just different than single property
Right.
appraisal. We're taking data from all the sales and we're overlaying that on not only the homes that sold, but the homes that didn't sell as well.
Right.
Okay, my only last question is Vision the only assessor that we have out there that can do this? Are they the only company out there that?
We had 3 bidders, and Vision came in as the lowest bidder.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Counselor Zanoni?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So working off Councilor Pisner's, because I had also had a question about Vision respective, is what they put in for a bid the only decision that you make when factoring in how you choose which vendor we're using, how much they're willing to charge us? Is there any other criteria you use for
Well,
selecting
I
a
guess
vendor?
it was my understanding that the charter has, if the person's qualified to do the task, then it would be the lowest bidder. That's what I think.
All right, thank you. So it's from the charter?
Right.
But we also have their software as well. So
Right, yeah. And they've done, yeah.
Thank you. On the field cards, normally it has like classifications for this performance of the kitchen and things of that nature. In the event that a resident declines to allow the assessor into their home, does that tend to work against their favor, or do they normally put it at the highest classification?
I guess it would depend on what they were, you mean as far as the revaluation or just in general?
Yeah, so when a home is being assessed, and I know they classify, for instance, when my home was assessed, it was at an old-style kitchen, right? I think it listed it as old.
Yeah.
And now my kitchen has been redone.
Right.
If the assessor, is the assessor required to go into my home?
No.
And so in the event that someone were to not allow the assessor into a home, how would they make the determination for that property?
Well, if they took out a building permit for a
So they would
kitchen
just
update,
they would work
just
on the information
assume-
that they
yeah,
have in their
right,
present. Okay.
Right.
All right, and I think that should be my final questions. Yeah, those are my only questions, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Hall?
So, Vicki, is it too early to get dates for the appeals? I know you have certain dates that you have to comply with for state statute. Do you have those dates yet as far as when people can appeal their assessments?
So there are informal hearings first, where they can go to Vision.
Yep.
And they would talk to
I-
Vision. And then the appeal, then there's the Board of, then if they still don't agree with their values, then they can go to the Board of Assessment Appeals, which is always by February 20th, no matter what year it is, unless we have an extension that would push it out to March 20th.
Okay, so what I would say about Vision is, obviously, we've dealt with Vision for many years. They are not the friendliest and most approachable group. And that comes right across the board from a lot of local residents that have complained about going in and just being shut down. And I think that's pretty evident. Well, there were a lot of factors with the last assessment reval that we went through besides Vision. But can you, when you deal with Vision, can you please kind of encourage them to at least be courteous, polite, receptive, because we've gotten feedback that they're not. So I'd love to see like maybe a new face or somebody that's willing to at least listen to the resident. The other thing is, I think this reval will be very different from the last reval just because of staff changes, and I think for the better, quite honestly. So I'm happy we're going into this reval with a whole different crew. It's going to be much easier, I think, on the residents, I hope. But I think we need to start putting those dates out for the appeals early so people can understand deadlines, because it feels like we never get those out in time and people miss them or complain they didn't know about them. So I think with what Gina said, we're going to have a few more sessions with you guys coming in. I think we really need to push the dates for people to appeal. And then the other question I had is the farmers' field cards. I had two different farmers question me on the field cards being corrected. So under the last appeal process, I know there were appeals that went through for farmers, and the assessment cards have not been updated as far as they can see.
Right, so we had gotten a legal opinion more recently, and when we sign the grand list at the end of January or February, they'll be updated by then.
Okay, so so this January or February,
Right.
they will be done. Okay.
Right, and then the whole process will start again for the revaluation, where we'll be notifying the farmers to have them, we'll collect data, make sure they're still farming, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, but hopefully we're not going to do what we did to the farmers last time. Let's not go down that road again, please. So that's all my questions for today, but I think the sooner we can get those dates out, the better. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Vicki. So, well, the purpose of a revaluation is not to raise taxes. In
Right.
fact,
Did
when-
they say yes? No.
no, but in fact, when property values go up,
Yes.
inherently, that's what happens to taxes, right? Just as a result of,
Well, I mean, sometimes the mill rate would go down, so.
right? But the revaluation has been going on in other communities around the state.
Oh, yeah.
It happens every year in various communities,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And do you have any sense of what we're seeing from other communities where revaluation is ongoing, what's happening to property values, and what's happening coincidentally to tax rates?
The tax rates, I'm not sure. I know that the values have gone up.
I think Windsor Locks just went through a reval. I think their
Last
assessments
year.
went up like 70%.
But they may have
But-
pushed it out
yeah,
for a
but they
year.
extended their reevaluation a year.
Right.
So it was
Right.
really their sixth year.
Yeah, if I could just jump in, I think, the concern is in a lot of these communities, not necessarily that the taxes are going up. I mean, that's a council decision ultimately whether taxes go up or down, but it's how that burden is shifted from commercial to residential. And I think that's the unknown right now is there's really not a lot of data out there to show us what that shift potentially could be. And I know way back in time when I was here, we had that shift happen going from commercial to residential, and it kind of looks, and I think why it's important to see those numbers up there is that for the most part, it looks like our residential housing stock is going up where possibly our commercial may not be going up as much or not going up at all. And that kind of shifts that burden from the commercial properties to the residential properties. And that's the big concern I think we should have going forward. Not so much, what the values are, but the impact on that balance between commercial and residential.
Yep. Well, thank you for that, because that was my next question, was just about that shift. And so just, is it fair if you compare Enfield to, say, Summers or Suffield, where they have much smaller inventory of large commercial property, that those kinds of shifts that the town manager was talking about are less likely to impact everyday homeowners, right? But
Well, probably, yeah.
Where here, when you have the mall and Mass Mutual and Lego and these large commercial buildings that suddenly see a 10, 15% decrease in value,
Right.
that inherently shifts the
Shifts to the
burden onto
residential.
residential.
Right.
So we don't know what that impact
Right.
is ultimately
Right.
going to be. Do you have any sense of that at this point?
No, I know in
from-
21 it went to residential probably
Yeah.
because of COVID and a lot of the
Okay.
residential.
But we
I
don't
mean,
know.
commercial.
So,
Yeah, we
again,
don't know.
To the town
really
manager's
yet.
point, we don't know what that impact is going to be.
Right.
But, okay, so that's the big question. Next, I do want to talk about vision again,
Okay.
if you just indulge me. So a couple of years ago, we had a revaluation, and we ended up doing an independent review of that whole process. And in that independent review, vision was a big subject of discussion with all kinds of accusations that they fix the data, they manipulate the data. We've used vision over and over again, and
Yeah.
you've been here for
20-something years.
and
Yeah.
you've
Used
always
them since 2011.
since 2011.
Yeah.
So you've had a long history with them.
Yep.
And so I just want to make sure we're not going to get into a place again where those same kinds of accusations get levied against vision. What are we going to do to make sure that we're safeguarding ourselves from that?
I don't know. I guess we'll just double check the data that they give us. I never had a problem with vision, so I don't know.
Okay.
Well, didn't they mention they would come in maybe? to
Oh,
give
yeah,
a
they did say that
presentation
they
or
would give us
something?
give you guys a presentation at some point if you want.
Okay. I think that would be helpful for
Yeah.
us and for the community to see
Yeah.
how.
They also have,
things work.
they'll meet with the Board of Assessment Appeals for a meeting
Okay.
and go over the values with them, because I think some people don't understand that revaluations is mass appraisal. It's not fee appraisal.
Right.
So every home is not getting their own appraisal done.
Right. They look at like characteristics, so square
Right.
footage, number of bedrooms, number of
And
bathrooms,
it's all
lot size,
table-driven.
and all of that.
Right.
And they just assign an algorithm to create value, and then take a theoretical home and assign
Right.
value to it.
Right.
Right. Just on some of these homes that are listed in here.
Mm-hmm.
Just the last one in particular that went up 78%.
I know.
I'm assuming there was significant rehabilitation that happened in that property.
I don't think.
You know what? There wasn't.
I think
This
Tyler
is-
looked at it.
That's even
This
more
would-
scary.
This would
Yeah.
probably be an outlier, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
We're not really sure. I looked at the listing from 2021 and I looked at the listing from 2025 and it, maybe some updated flooring. I mean, not a ton there to really
Okay.
warrant that big of an increase. I don't know why it went up that much, to be honest.
Okay. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Counselor Crissati.
Yeah, good evening.
Hi.
A lot of the questions that I was going to ask were already presented. My big concern is the shift of commercial. Based on other towns, any data that you have collected from other towns in terms of revaluations that took place maybe last year in other towns?
To see if it was shifting. I can look, I can find out for you.
Yeah, for the commercial, because I'm really concerned, and it was a big concern last time, that the shift went to the homeowners because the commercial property went all the way down to 8%, I believe.
Yep.
And that is a big concern. And also seeing some of the data that you presented today, the first thing that people are going to look at, and even though you have down here is the purpose of reevaluation is not to raise taxes, everybody is going to look and say, my property value went up 25, 30% last reval, and now it's going to be looking at even a higher
Right.
percentage. So people are going to think right off the bat, my taxes are going to be skyrocketing. And I know that we shift the mill rate to offset that. I get that. But, you know, if we get Vision in here to give us that presentation sooner than later, I think that's going to help us out quite a bit.
Okay.
All right, because the same questions are going to come. People are going to come and say, you know, I've done nothing to my property. I have this ranch that last time I was assessed at $225,000. Now they're going to be assessed at $100,000 more.
Right.
You know, they're going to look and say, really? You know, so I think a lot of these same questions that happened last time could even be magnified more this time, and I'm very concerned about that. And also, are we going to take some of the recommendations from that study that was done, and are we going to implement some of these recommendations that were done from the last study that was done? You know, in regard to things that were presented. Now, yes, there's a different shift of all different faces, but you're going to be still faced with the same question. Maybe your smile's a little nicer. Maybe your demeanor is much better. But what you're going to still be facing from people is the bottom line of how much their property is being assessed and what are their taxes going to be. So I'm just, I have to put it out there because we've been in this situation before, and so if we can get Vision in here and to give us, or if you can come up and give us some more data in regard to commercial,
Okay.
you know, because you know the homeowners can't take the hit all the time because of the commercial. So, but thank you for
Yeah.
that presentation.
And if I could, real quick, you know, as evidenced by our staff being here tonight, we recognize that, you know, we want to make sure that there is a lot of information flowing out about what the process is, how the process is going. You know, as Mayor Sakala said, this is the first of probably many, maybe not 1,000 meetings, but a few that will help try to get that information out to people. So, you know, when they get noticed, it will not be a surprise. And again, I think as this process plays out, and we're in the very early stages right now, but as it plays out and we start getting an indication of, what is that shift? Is there a shift? We'll want to get that here to the public so we can, again, start preparing people for whatever is going to happen with that.
Thank you. I think it would be, if there is a point in time where we could see what the trends are, I think that would be interesting as well. I know that may not directly translate to what happens here in Enfield, but at some point, places that have gone through this in the last year or so, it would be interesting to see what the trend is as far as homeowner residential versus the commercial. Maybe we could get a little bit of that data at the same time as when we have Vision come in the next couple of months. Councilor Mangini.
Thank you. I'm sure my fellow realtors up here will agree that perhaps we get out the message as well that the market that we're dealing with is not favorable to people purchasing, and it probably should be brought forward that it's out of our control. It's the way the market is, and we just have to go with it, with the flow. Unfortunately, it's been going on for almost, 5 years now? And we're hoping that it'll change and that it'll be more favorable. But I think the average person needs to understand that that is a factor, a real factor that's going to be built into this equation. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Any last comments, or you guys have anything else? Tyler and Vicki?
No.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we will see you in a couple of months for a second one. All right. Next on,
Yeah.
oh, they're staying up here. Next, number 4, tax exemption.
I'll come up and sit with them. but-
Mr. Wilcox, okay. Tax exemptions, take it away.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we have some law changes to the new law that was passed last year, 1281-83, for the 100% permanent and totally disabled veterans, along with some local options for the council to consider. All right, so Public Act 25-168, it's really long. So in section 233 contains several administrative fixes to 1281-83. It also contains several local options. The administrative fixes are effective for the 2025 grand list, and the local options can be effective for the 2025 grand list as well. Or if you decide not to opt into any of them, you could pass them further down the line. All right, so some of the administrative fixes. It clarifies that the exemption is to be based on the veteran's percentage of ownership, includes mobile manufactured homes or any other homes on leased land, allows the property to be held in trust, provided that the veteran is responsible for the taxes, and allows the veteran to hold life use and still be eligible. It also clarifies that the exemption would not be eligible on any portion of the property used commercially or from which rental income is derived. So if you have a multifamily house, 2-family, you're renting out the other side, you're only going to get the exemption on the side that you live in. And then finally, it clarifies that the veteran must apply annually to the assessor's office no later than January 1st on a form prescribed by OPM, and must bring all documentation necessary to demonstrate the veteran has a 100% permanent and total disability rating from the VA. So we've sent out letters to all the veterans that qualified last year, so hopefully they received those letters and are going to come see us soon. So hopefully whoever's watching this that's getting it, please come see us and bring us that form. All right, so let's get into the local options. So we have 5 local options for you to consider. So I'll go through the local options and their potential impact to our grand list. So if you were not to opt into any of the local options, the grand list would decrease by 11.3 million. So that's going to happen regardless of what you do, okay? Or if you don't opt into any of the local options. All right, the first local option. So this gives the option to include up to 2 acres of land along with the dwelling for 100% permanently and totally disabled veterans. The total impact would be 15.8 million around. And then the change of that impact, the grand list would decrease by about 4.5, okay? And that's just if you opt into the acreage. The second local option gives the town council the option to include veterans who died prior to October 1st of 2024. So how the law is currently written, if a veteran died before October 1st of 2024, the spouse would not be eligible for this exemption. This option allows you to extend that time period back to whatever date that you guys want. And this would increase the amount of surviving spouses that would be eligible. And we only know of 5 such spouses, but in theory more could come forward if this was passed. The total impact, the grand list would decrease by about 11.8 million, which is a change of about 500,000 to the grand list. Option 3 creates a cap on the assessed value that can be exempt based on the median assessed value of residential property. So Enfield's current median for residential property is 156,300. So 18 of the 97 residents who currently qualify would be impacted if this was passed. And the grand list impact would be 10.6 million. And the grand list would actually increase by about 700,000 if this was the only option passed. Option 4 increases the eligibility to receive the exemption to veterans who have a less than 100% permanent and total disability rating from the VA, but are deemed unemployable. This would add 27 veterans who would qualify for this exemption. The grand list impact would be about 13.9 million, and that would be a change of about 2.5 million in the grand list. And then the final local option, this enables Gold Star families to qualify for this exemption. And Gold Star refers to a parent or surviving spouse whose child or spouse was killed in action. So this option would extend the exemption to those families. And the current impact, there is no current impact. If there are Gold Star families here in Enfield, we are not aware of them. And then this is just a chart kind of showing you all of the options compared to each other, just so you can see. And this is just if you pass one of the options. So if you just pass option 1, that's what happens to the grand list. That's the change, and so on and so forth. And then items for the council to consider. The council can opt to adopt all of these options or none of them, or some of them. If option 2 is chosen, that's the one with the surviving spouses, where you can set the date. You can pick any date you want, and that's completely up to you. And that's all I got. Questions?
All right, before we open it up to see if anybody has questions, sort of same request, if we could get this up on the website. I know it's sort of just informational as well right now. I can say that General Government Subcommittee last term was doing some work and discussed this several times, and it was on our agenda It may actually still be on the agenda as old business or just items we hadn't gotten to. So I would suggest that we do a referral to general government for this, so it can go back on the agenda sort of when an item that general government discusses as well. What we've been doing in the past is sort of doing a formal referral, if you will. Somebody up here can ask for a referral for general government and get a second, and then it kind of just goes there. And then general government can discuss it with the caucuses and sort of come back with a recommendation that the council as a whole can accept, decline, modify, discuss, whatever we want. So I don't know if people are amenable to that. If somebody wants to make a referral to general government, I think that's Counselor Hall. Is that, you're on general government? Okay. I don't know if that's something that people are interested in doing. I think that's probably the subcommittee it belongs in, because it's general government and finance. Okay. Go ahead.
So I would definitely agree to make the referral to general governance, and I do have a question for them, if I can ask. So as the statute is written and the state legislators decided that to clarify this, because a lot of the assessors weren't understanding the meaning of what was passed. So the meaning was total and 100% disabled, which I think they clarified the language a little bit for the assessors to understand. And when we voted on this, the understanding from the subcommittee at the state was this would have very little impact on the towns, very little. They said maybe a few thousand throughout the entire state of Connecticut. So can you tell me how many veterans that are 100% and permanent disabled that we're looking at locally? What is our number?
So currently we have 97.
Okay,
If you pass the unemployability, which is they're deemed permanent and total but aren't 100%, you're adding another 27.
okay, so 97 right now, permanent and total disability.
They're getting it no matter, yes.
Okay, and this permanent and total disability happened while they were actively deployed or on active duty, because that is part of the statute. It can't be a disability that happened to them when they were outside their service time and got hurt at another
Yes.
job.
Sorry, service-connected, permanent.
It has
and
to
total.
be,
Yes.
right, so 97. Okay, that was
97.
that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Mangini?
Thank you for compilation of the data and all the information. Are you working directly with the veterans groups to get accurate information?
Well, I mean, the veterans come to us, they bring in their disability letters, which they're
Okay.
required to do.
But we're not going out to the community or to the veterans groups to solicit or look to see if there are others out there?
No.
No.
I mean, we're not.
All right, thank you.
It seems as though they know about it, though, because they do come in.
Yeah, and we have information on our website
Yeah.
as well.
Okay, thank you.
Veterans groups are aware of the law.
Anything else, Cindy? Okay. Counselor Zanoni?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if there's 97 veterans under permanently and totally disabled, what was the account before the statute got revised when it was, is my understanding, was the statute broader in its interpretation of who is a disabled veteran? It was broader, correct?
It was, the exemption changed.
So
So
the
they always
exemption-
got an exemption.
Okay.
If they were 100%, they got the max of the 10,500 off of their
So
assessment.
the statute
It increased it to the
increased it.
dwelling.
Okay.
Right.
And so that's the 11 million change from, the 11.8 is in addition from prior years, correct, before they changed the statute?
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Counselor Prasadi.
Yeah, good evening again. You bring up a very, very good point. And that point is that the veteran has to, every single year, annually, have to go visit your office.
Yep.
A lot of paperwork, and, it's a reoccurring demand, I would say, on you especially. Do you see any differences of the 97 people that come in? Is it still the same form letter that they get, or has something changed within their family unit or within them?
Well, the letter that they now have to bring in, and it's an OPM form. We have them in our office. It's a brand new form. The letter from the VA that they get, they also have to bring that in every year. So there's really no change in that. We just want an
Okay.
updated, most recent form.
Okay, and what do you do in the event that they forget the date, and then somebody comes in 2 weeks after the date? What do we do? Do we honor it, or do we say, sorry, you're too late?
Well, the statute is pretty clear that there is a deadline, January 1st. And we're not open January 1st, so it's even before then that we need the application in our office. I mean, they could probably go to the Board of
board,
Assessment Appeals
Okay.
and, see what happens there.
I'm just playing
Yeah.
the negative aspect of it. In the event that somebody might be sick, they might be in a hospital or something, and then,
There's no extension.
they're late, and so they would have to go to make an appointment then with the assessor at that point for an appeal.
As far as
Yeah,
we
that
know.
would be the next course of action, because statutorily, it's pretty clear we can't give it to them if we don't get application every year.
And how much notice do we give the veteran from your office to say that, you have to have your stuff in by January 1st? Does it go out in November?
Yeah, we sent the letters out already.
Okay.
I would say the beginning in November, probably.
Yeah. which,
Perfect.
So if you were to pass any of these local options, that would entitle some new people to it.
Right.
In which case, we would send those letters out to them. They'd have less time to get that into us, so
Okay. All right,
kind
great.
of on the clock a little bit, but.
Right. Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anything else? Did you have? No? So I know Counselor Hall said she'd be okay with the referral to general government. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Second.
All right. I don't think, we don't have to hand vote or anything, so I mean, as long as we have sort of consensus to send it to general government, if we can have that on the agenda for our next general government meeting, that would be great. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 5 on the special agenda is the fire district consolidation update. As soon
Steve
as you're
Bork,
ready, go right ahead.
27 Oxford Drive. I'm a commissioner up at the North Thompsonville Fire District.
Mark Zaccaro, 12 Olmsted Road. I'm a commissioner in the Hazardville Fire District. We are the chair and vice chair of a committee that represents 4 fire districts, Hazardville, Thompsonville, North Thompsonville, and Shaker Pines, in an effort to consolidate those 4 districts into one. And we thought it was appropriate at this time to kind of bring the council up to date of where we are with our efforts in that goal. Our goal is to obviously give better service through training, fire prevention, and a better fiscal picture to providing fire service to the town to those 4 districts. To date, we've engaged a law firm who has experience in this area. They've already done a few consolidations here in the state. We engaged Eastern Connecticut State University to give us
Help
facilitate some of the subcommittees that we're using, which are our in-house subcommittees. In June, or actually in May, one of the initiatives that we had to, or hurdles we had to cross, was to get a unanimous consent from each commissioner of the fire district. So 18 people voted on May 1st unanimously to continue this effort and staff this committee. And we are only a committee. We don't, as a committee, we represent each district, but we have no real power. All the power comes from the districts. So we expect to produce very shortly, the draft is out, a charter for the new commission. We expect to go to referendum in November 26. That's.
Yeah, we're, in regards to the referendum, and we have to build the ordinance, so we're gonna need some input. We got some legal advice. We're gonna need maybe some input from the council here on how to develop that ordinance and present it to the town clerk, and making sure everything, all the Ts are crossed, the Is are dotted, and making sure it's in proper order before we move forward. So we will be looking for advice on that, in that respect. As Mark was saying, these are some of the hurdles how we got here. We've been working on it well over 2 months. Mark's been working on it a little bit longer. We have to follow the state statutes. The state statutes are 7/195 through 7/200. And again, we held all these meetings. All the districts had to vote separately. Then they had to come together and vote unanimously. It had to be a unanimous vote right across the board. It's probably the first time the fire districts has voted on anything unanimously. So we are appointed by each district, the representatives that were listed prior, these representatives. And so important dates and timelines, as Mark was saying, if you want to pick it up from here. But
We filed with the town clerk in June of this year. Our intent to go forward with this. We, through the good offices of Representative Santinella, we received a state grant for $100,000, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. We have, from that date, we have 18 months to produce a charter and to get this to the citizens of our districts for a vote. To be able to go forward and create a legal new entity, a new fire district that would encompass this geographical area that we're talking about. And I believe you all could tell us better. There's a drop dead date sometime this coming summer of maybe August 15th or whatever, that question has to go on the ballot, or the ballot will be printed, maybe as late as September 1st. But it's the same drop dead date as you would have for getting yourself on the ballot. So I think we should be ready by then.
I can do that.
Yep.
So these are some of the things we need to do between now and next August. Approve and adopt a consolidation ordinance, which we just talked about. Establish a new charter and bylaws. The charter is drafted. We do have a new charter. It's going through legal now, and we have to redefine it a little bit. And we also are working on bylaws. They're going to be separate. They're going to be a charter, and then there's going to be the bylaws. We have an operational outline. Again, it's a draft. It's not complete yet. That'll be kind of a working document over the next year, maybe even 2 years. It'll be a working document will have to fit our needs. And and set and define district boundaries. That's pretty much complete. We just went off the old boundaries. Financial review and development of consolidated budget. That's being worked on as we speak. It should be ready, I would say, within a month or so. And again, that's another one that's kind of a work in progress, depending on the tax rate, depending on what we set as a mill rate for each district. We don't anticipate for the first year there'll be any increases for the first year in consolidation. Outside of the normal, what might be the normal increases, because we set our budgets in May, and if we go for, say, our fiscal year is July 1st, 27, well, whatever we set for that May, it might be a slight increase, but we don't anticipate any large increases. We're going to try and manage that. And then we have to figure out the distribution and consolidation of all our assets and our liabilities. We got to come up with a budget sheet. And that will be probably ready for 26, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's it. If there's any questions, or I'm sure there might be.
Perfect.
It's a big process. It's a long process.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Councilor Allegro.
Thank you. I just have one question. I'm really very curious because I live in District 1. Is there a reason why the Enfield Fire Department is not part of this consolidation?
You might want to ask them.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were involved in the initial process. They came to maybe a half a dozen meetings, and they decided it just wasn't for them. But for the, go to them and get the real reason and the details on that. But they have attended each meeting. They have had a representative. So they are involved. They're still staying up to pace with what we're doing. So that's a good thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilor Hall?
Linda asked one of my questions, so that was going to be my question, is District 1 going to be part of this? Do you think, so I'll take her question and expand on it. Is there an opportunity for them to be part of this if they decide to moving forward?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Be foolish not to,
Okay.
right?
And then the other question goes to the mill rate. So before it goes to referendum, in the description for the question for the referendum, will you have a mill rate put together, an expected mill rate for that first year for
Yes.
people to actually see? Okay, all right.
And just to be fair and to be open, obviously every district has a different mill rate currently.
Right.
We're going to go to a single mill rate. There'll be some that are reduced. There'll be some that are slightly increased due to the consolidation. We're going to try our best to even everything out and make it work.
Okay. But they'll know that before they
Yeah, we'll
vote.
know that.
Before they vote.
Okay.
Before they vote.
Okay.
Absolutely. It'll be
All
part
Yep.
of that
Not,
ordinance.
not fair the other way.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Councilor Zanoni?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you had mentioned that it is your hope to get this on the November ballot next year.
Correct.
Now, I know traditionally the fire districts sometimes have held votes throughout the year, and they're normally held at the fire departments. Do you intend on altering when you tend to hold elections, for instance, for your fire commissioners for individual votes, or are you just choosing November specifically? Because I know sometimes they're held in September and
This will
around the year.
this will not be that. This will be a question on the ballot that asks the voters to approve or deny creating this new
So
district.
we get to have this on our town ballot, which is why you're coordinating with the town clerk?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And then,
So that, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, you're good. You can finish up.
So that we will probably, in the new district, if it's created, will continue to hold their annual meeting in May, which is set, it varies, but usually it's something that says it's the first Monday in May, and they will hold elections at those meetings and set the budget as we currently do for the new year.
Okay, so
And we have to get that number out to the assessor so that they can collect their taxes.
okay, that answers the second part of my question. That's all I had. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor or Deputy Mayor
Yeah,
Santinelli?
so thank you guys for coming in. The 4 districts that have agreed to this process, is everybody locked in at this point? can anybody leave?
Absolutely, they can.
So
Nothing binding, yeah.
nothing is binding. So when does all of this become binding on the 4 districts?
I would say that the.
Once the referendum is passed?
Referendum passes, and at that time, we only have a short window to create the district and be able to implement it. Our hope is to implement it by July 1st of '27.
Right.
So we need to create the district, dissolve the others, which it's not as important to dissolve the others, but the assets have to flow to the new district so that payroll can be met and other obligations can be met
Yeah,
for July of '27.
We discussed that in our last meeting, you know, the absolute drop dead point where somebody could pull out. Like Mark says, from the referendum approval to that new fiscal year, we're gonna have to come up with a date in between those two, July 1 and November.
And I'm assuming if somebody can get out, somebody can also get in during that same time period.
That would,
It might delay.
both things would be inconvenient.
Yeah.
But I
Well,
I
life's
guess yes,
inconvenient sometimes.
yes.
No, I'm only, okay. Over the long term, right, the first year mill rate is going to be whatever it's going to be, blended between the 4 districts. I'm assuming that in a consolidated environment, long term, the costs would ultimately, the efficiencies from running a larger single department would ultimately either go down or the need for increases would be minimized as you gain more efficiencies. Is that what you're seeing happen?
I think what we're seeing happen now is that, long story longer, the employees, we have to gain more employees. And so you're seeing spikes in budgets that weren't anticipated because the volunteers took up that slack and those kinds of things. What we hope to see is that just as the town's budget does this, hopefully does this and not spike because of, trauma, that the fire district will, continue on that plane. And, the discussion before ours on revaluation and things like that should help it even out. The redundancies that we have now are, 4 fire chiefs. There's just those salaries alone, down to 1. And, we'll have some attrition of apparatus. We won't buy as readily because we have, the backups that are already in place from the other districts. Now we buy fire apparatus to support the district that we sit in, and think of that, as that situation alone. So we'll have the big expenditures, if you will, payroll and fire apparatus under control, and we will have some economies of scale because of 4 into 1.
One of the big drivers, just so you understand, one of the big drivers for consolidation is manpower. That's probably the number one, to make sure we got coverage, the proper amount of people responding to the fires, responding on the apparatus. That's the number one thing, public safety. That's what we're here for. We're ahead of the curve, maybe not in respect to consolidation, but we're ahead of the curve in making sure that we are covered as district. We are covered. We've got 24/7 at North Thompsonville, 24/7 obviously Thompsonville, 24/7 Hazardville, and Shaker Pines is 3/4 of the way there with 24/7. So while we could get away with not consolidating, the proper thing to do for this town to assure that we have the correct public safety is to consolidate, make those efficiencies through attrition, through apparatus, and all other means, to, again, serve the public the right way.
Do you know what your consolidated, what is the collective budget of the 4 districts?
We're 11.8.
Yeah.
11.8 for the four of you, and if it were the 5 of you, it's somewhere around 14, 16?
I think it's closer to 16.
16 million.
Yeah.
So Enfield taxpayers $16 million to 5 fire districts. That's where we are at this point. Okay.
And I
Thanks.
think the point you made was going forward in the future. That's where you're going to see the big payoff. You know, you can do all kinds of calculations on what it's going to cost to man the 6 fire stations actually, because Enfield's got 2. And you could do the calculations and draw it out 5 or 6, 10 years, and it's going to get very expensive. And that's one of the driving forces.
And we no longer have volunteers, right? We used to have a largely volunteer fire department. All of them were largely volunteer.
Correct.
Correct? And now how many volunteers do we have?
I don't know if we have any.
Do we have any?
Well, we do. The commissioners volunteer.
So do the town council people.
So we're calling those people that are out of the collective bargaining units paid-on-call firefighters, and we have some of those.
Yeah.
But to rely on that as your level of fire protection is not a prudent thing to do anymore. And everybody has come to, everybody I say, each district has come to that notion or that notion at different times in their history. Whether the paid-on-call people have waned to a point of, you know, we're not getting the apparatus out at midnight anymore, or whatever the cause was, that's why we're here now.
To give you an example, North Thomasville, when I got on, which is a little while ago, we had 60 volunteers, 60 people, and there was a waiting list. Now, active volunteers or active on-call people, 15, 16. And we don't have no waiting list. We have to go out and beg, borrow, and steal people.
And
So,
to go along with that, as you've seen in your experience on the council, the ability or the availability to hire police officers has, it used to be, you know, you give a test, 2,000 people would take it, and you were picking three people. Now you're out poaching other towns for available employees. Same thing's happening in the fire service. It used to be, you know, a sought-after job and things like that. So not only has the volunteer system and the paid-on-call system waned, but even to go out and hire just one person, you know, to fill a slot that either somebody retired or it's a new slot, it's a big deal. And once you train that person, you've spent $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on him, her. You don't want to lose that. That's wasted money.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
No problem. All right, item 6 on the special meeting agenda is adjournment, so if I can get a motion to adjourn. All right, all in favor? All right, special meeting is adjourned. Why don't we take like a 2 or 3 minute break, and then we'll jump right into the regular meeting, okay? All right, everybody, it is 7:07. We are going to call the regular meeting of December 1st, 2025 to order with prayer by me. So I don't have a prayer this evening. It is December 1st, so I have a couple of thoughts regarding December. December is a month of enormous potential. It is a time we can all give and all receive, and the time when the spirit of humanity shines the brightest. It is a month of invitation to forget ourselves in service of others. We can do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And roll call, please.
Mayor Sakala.
Here.
Councilor Crisati.
Here.
Councilor Hall.
Here.
Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Matthews.
Here.
Councilor Pisner.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Here.
Councilor Thomas.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
Councilor Zanoni. And Councilor Allegro.
Here.
11 members are present, none are absent.
Thank you. Fire evacuation announcement. In the event of an emergency or fire, there are 2 exits, one at the rear of the council chambers and one to my left. Either way, exit out the doors and to a safe distance away from the building. If you're going out to my left, please go down the stairs and out the back into the parking lot. Meetings of preceding minutes. The special meeting of October 20th was tabled. I don't know if anyone has been able to go in and review the minutes and if we're good. So if I can get a motion to approve the special minutes from October 20th, 2025.
So moved.
And a second.
Okay. Any deletions, corrections? All right, all in favor? Cindy?
Cindy.
All in favor? Okay. And so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in favor. Abstention? All right, 1 abstained. Thank you. The organizational meeting of November 10th, 2025. If I can get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any additions, deletions, corrections? All in favor? 11 in favor, none against, no abstentions. Special meeting of November 17th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any additions, corrections? Okay. All in favor? 11 in favor, none against. And last, the regular meeting of November 17th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any additions, corrections, or anything on this one? All right. All in favor? 11 in favor, none against. Thank you. Number 6, special guest, we have none. Number 7, public communications. Any Enfield resident or taxpayer who wishes to address the council shall first be recognized by the chair and shall state their full name and address for the record. We'll limit your remarks to 5 minutes the first round. After each person who desires to speak the first time, if there is a second round, you will be given 3 minutes. During public communications, item 7 on the agenda, they will get 8 minutes total. If we get to 14 and people still would like to chat, we can do that if it's before 11 p.m., and you will be limited to 3 minutes. Public communications shall be limited to 1 hour unless extended by a majority vote of the council. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any individual member, please. And all remarks should be addressed to the administration of the town, will be addressed to the town manager and not individual employees. I have a sign-up sheet. So first on here is a Mark Zaccaro. Is he the gentleman that left?
Yep.
Okay. Steve Burke.
He was the next guy.
I am 0 for 2. Pam, you're it. Come on up.
I was thinking, oh, I'll be third on the list. That's okay. Good evening. Pam Townsend, 54 Kimberly Drive. So I'm here tonight to talk about Reach Across America. Just a quick reminder that our mission is to remember our fallen, honor those that are serving or have served, and to teach our next generation the value of freedom. Takes place on December 13th at St. Patrick's Cemetery. And our ceremony begins at 12 p.m. So please arrive early because the parking is a little bit challenging in St. Pat's. And there's more information on our Facebook page at Enfield, Connecticut, WAA. We need volunteers to help open the boxes early in the morning when they arrive. I'll be at the cemetery at 7 a.m. So anybody who'd like to come out and help me open boxes, I'd appreciate it. If you can't be out there early, feel free to stay late and help us clean up the cemetery afterwards. I'd also like to thank everyone that came out to the fundraiser, and a special thank you to Our Lady of Mount Carmel Society for sponsoring a delicious pasta dinner. 100% of the ticket sales were donated to Reach Across America, resulting in 50 veterans being remembered with a wreath on December 13th. We had a nice time. We had some fun, great conversation, and awesome food. So I thank everybody for coming out and supporting us. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. Mr. Young, I wrote your name in because you're here. I'm assuming you want to come up. Come on up.
George Young, 8 Holly Lane. Thank you for that. Be short tonight. I'm happy to see that the senior volunteer tax credit was put back on the agenda. I just don't agree with the amount of funds you want to set aside for the program. I think overfunding is just as bad as underfunding when you have not looked at the history. There's never been 200 people approved for this program, and that would equate to $80,000, not $100,000. You will know the exact number by February of 26, in time for the 27 budget. I believe that the hours volunteered in calendar 25 are the ones that are used for the fiscal year end June 30th, 2027 budget. Since the program was discontinued earlier this year, many people have not reached the 75 minimum hours volunteered or just gave up. One further note is, I believe the committee's active date expired on June 30th, 25, and new volunteers need to be appointed. Over the past couple years, the council and the town managers have heard many residents asking for reductions in speeds on their roads. I don't recall any positive action taken on streets mentioned, such as Abbey Road. Oh yes, there have been patrols, tickets issued, and flashing speed lights as signs. But nothing really positive has been done. There's a sense that many residents do not like the words speed bumps, so that idea gets rejected easily. The word bump is not friendly. Here's a little story to back up my suggestion for a better way to slow down traffic and friendlier wording, and I hope you can visualize this story. I was driving towards Barkhamsted a few weeks ago and took a left turn from Route 219 onto a street called Case Street, which ran from Barkhamsted to Canton. And lo and behold, it comes back right onto Route 219. Case Street is only about 1 or 2 miles long, to put that into perspective. Along that 2-lane road with a speed limit of 30 miles an hour and a double yellow center line, I observed a bright yellow diamond sign that read speed table. There were 8 oblong lines. Each one was a little longer than the previous one until you reached the speed table. The speed table was about 18 feet in length across both lanes and seemed to be very effective. I have pictures also, if anyone would care to see them. My suggestion that the town manager, the DPW, and the safety committee consider this alternative to the classic speed bump signs. That's it. Easy night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anyone else for the first time? Anyone for the second time? All right, public communications is closed. 8 on the agenda is counselor communications. Anyone have anything? Counselor Mangini.
Just a couple of announcements. We have a presentation this Wednesday at the Annex. I believe it starts at 5:30 for people to come and speak and to listen to what potential plans could be for our Annex. Also on Thursday, Chamber of Commerce is having their yearly meeting. We also, the DAR, is presenting our Teacher of the Year American History Award to Miss Karpiej Sapansky, one of our own from Enfield High School, who has won the award from our chapter. She will now be considered to go on to the state level, and if she wins the state, she'll go on to national. So we're very proud of our teacher, Ms. Karpiej Sapansky. And then I'm not going to steal the thunder. I'm going to let Gina and Marie talk about Jingle Jam, but I'm excited to go Friday night. And again, to PM, thank you for bringing Wreaths Across America forward every time you come and speak. We've got that very important event coming up on December 13th, and they do need help unloading, loading, and doing whatever you can. Safe Harbor and Bandits Place is also on the same day. From 5 to 9, it's a fundraiser to help raise some money to offset some of the costs for people, and it's going to be a great event. I have all the details. If anybody wants to email me or Monica Wright, it's on the website. So that'll be a fun event. I know there are many more events coming up, but those are the ones I took note of. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Mangini. Counselor Matthews, and then we go to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to remind everyone that tomorrow is Giving Tuesday, and it is a great opportunity to give back to your community. Enfield is full of nonprofits, volunteers, and everyday residents doing incredible work, feeding families, supporting youth, and caring for seniors, and that strengthens the fabric of our town. So I would like to encourage everyone to give back. If it's not monetarily, then you can certainly volunteer your time. Even a kind word goes a long way to those folks doing human services here in Enfield. That's it.
Thank you. Counselor Ungary.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to remind people that this Sunday, December 7th, is our Torchlight Parade, and that starts off at 6 p.m., so I hope to see a good turnout. Also, Mr. Young, I'm very familiar with K Street. All those tables, they slow everybody right down. People I've talked to that live out that way, say they're guests or friends or whatever, they miss the first one, they don't miss the ones after it, because you go flying right over it. But it certainly does work. It's an option.
Thank you. Counselor Pisner.
I was going to do Torchlight. You stole my thunder. That's okay. I just want to give a shout out to Lori Gates. She did Cookies for Camouflage. It's so successful. I don't ever have time to bake cookies, but I do send money in for postage, and I think people forget that it costs money to ship. So if you're not a baker, you can Venmo her. I'm sure she's still going to take donations. So look her up. But it's a great thing, and it means so much to our veterans overseas to receive those packages. Wreaths. I just want to put a plug out there, Pam, for wreaths. So as soon as you find out we're going to get the buy one, get one, because that's when I buy my wreaths. And I'm going to tell everybody out there in TV land, because people call me all the time, where do I get a wreath? Where do I get a wreath? Watch the Wreaths Across America website. The best time to buy it is the buy one, get one free. So if you have 3 or 4 veterans, you buy your 4. 4 goes to a veteran who doesn't have somebody to buy them a wreath. So keep watching the website, and Pam, please put it up there, because that's when I buy all my wreaths. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Prasadi.
Yeah, I have a couple of announcements. First of all, on December 13th, just a reminder, at Enfield High School, there's a pancake breakfast, and then I also believe a visit by Santa Claus will be coming through. So just keep that in the back of your mind, because December 13th is also Wreaths Across America, and there's a few other events that I think are taking place. Also on Saturday and Sunday, holiday market at the Annex from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Our farmers market, go out and support all the vendors. On December 4th at Social Services, once again, I mentioned this last time, I'll mention it again, winter tradition celebration. Learn about your different traditions here in town and the different cultures, and connect with neighbors that try to meet a new neighbor. It's part of Enfield Connect. The other thing that I do want to mention, and Mr. Young, you brought it up about the Senior Volunteer Tax Credit Program. I will be in support of that again. And I know the committee has been disbanded. We'll have to get the band back together. All right, and we can discuss a few other things that moving forward with that program. The last thing that, this is through the mayor to the town manager, I just would like to know the timeline for the installation of the dugouts at Powder Hollow. And also, and I had mentioned this before, but I don't think that we got an actual reply, or it was miscommunicated. I'd like to have an assessment done at our outdoor facilities for ADA compliance, just to make sure that all handicapped people have access properly at all of our facilities. So if we could just get an update on that, that would be awesome. I'd greatly appreciate that. And that dinner at Mount Carmel was awesome, Pam. Help support Wreaths Across America, and thanks for that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hall?
Just a quick comment to Mr. Young. He brought up Abbey Road specifically. I can honestly say that the police have been extremely proactive out on Abbey, only because I live out there and I know. And maybe Mark can quit. You haven't seen them yet? They're literally, you've seen them. They've been very, very proactive. So I know the police department are taking the speeding requests for certain areas of town and posting cars out on the side of the road, because I've seen many pulled over and many ticketed recently too. So, and it's not just our area of town I can talk to, because I'm all over in what I do. So I've seen a lot of them out there actually physically ticketing. So very proactive out there. So I will put a shout out for our police department doing a really great job slowing people down, because I can tell you I've seen some crazy people driving on Abbey Road like 100 miles an hour, which is outrageous. So yeah, they're out there, they're trying, but thanks, that's all I have.
Thank you. I think that's it. I just have a couple of things. Councillor Ungary did mention the Torchlight Parade and the carol sing. There is a rain date of the 14th if for some reason it rains on Sunday, which it will not. So it is this Sunday at 6 p.m. And Matt, if possible, could we reach out to see if the Kid Mayor wants to march with us down? It's a fun parade, and I know that in the years past that the Kid Mayor has sort of done that with us. So if we want to reach out, that would be wonderful. Jingle Jam, I know Councillor Pisner did mention it last meeting. It is this Friday. My basement is full of wonderful things that we are going to auction off and raffle off. So it is this Friday. It takes place at the American Legion. Doors open at 5 p.m. Auction will be at 6 p.m. There are still a few tickets left. If you want tickets, you can. It might just be easiest to reach out to me, or you can go on the website, Facebook. It's a really fun night. actually. It's a lot of fun. And lastly, I did get an email from Lori Gates, and she asked me to make an announcement about Wreaths Across America. She said, I'm overjoyed to announce yet again Enfield has been chosen as a stop by Walmart Trucking as Wreaths Across America travels to Arlington National Cemetery from Maine next week. This will be, weather permitting, Enfield's 9th time hosting this group, which is a huge honor. This year's visit will be on Wednesday, December 10th in the morning, and the route will be posted on social media as soon as it's available. And it will end with a short presentation at the Enfield Town Green, which is open to the public. This will be 5 tractor trailers this year, 1 bound for Long Island National Cemetery, 3 for Arlington National Cemetery, and 1 headed to the 9/11 crash site in Pennsylvania. The reason these people ask to return this year and every year is because the way our town welcomes and celebrates them and reminds them that we honor and remember our veterans, and we teach the next generation about the meaning of sacrifice. So please, if you're able to, once the route is posted, be somewhere along the roadside and wave and honk and show the support for our veterans. She did send me what I believe is the route and estimated times, if we might be able to put that up on our website when it is available as well. I think that's it. And as soon as Councilor Mangini, go right ahead.
I'm so sorry. I was talking about our DAR awards. It's actually in plural awards. And we have our Veteran of the Year that we've chosen, Jim Maloney. We're proud to honor Jim Maloney as our Veteran of the Year. So we're going to have our little ceremony and present Jim with his award. So we're really happy about that. Thank you. I'm sorry I missed that one.
I can't pull up my agenda. So next on the agenda is the town manager's report and communications.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Just have a few items really quick to go over. First, apparently we're going to get some foul weather the next day or so. I don't know if you're aware of that. Thing called snow. Not sure exactly what that is, but we'll see. And because of that, we have issued a parking ban beginning at 6 a.m. Tuesday morning through 6 a.m. Wednesday morning. Hopefully, it's all rain, so we won't have to worry about it, but we're trying to be prepared. So we do ask everyone to get their cars off the roadways, parking, so we can plow should that need arise. Second, I know Councilwoman Mangini talked about the Enfield Annex public input session. Just want to elaborate on that. It's going to be more interactive than listening. We do want to get input from the public on, what can be done, what should be done, what things need to be protected there at the annex as we start moving forward with, I guess, the next phase, the next chapter in former Fermi High School and now Enfield Annex. So public input early on as part of our application to SIF, but even more importantly, if things don't work out with the RFP we have out there, we're going to have to come up with ideas on what will become of that area. And so we want to get public input starting right now. And that's going to be, again, December 3rd, 5:30 p.m. at the Annex. Just to remind you, if you don't know this, and remind you if you do know this, but we are going to be having a closing on the Nathan Hale School, which will be December 4th, unless weather strikes and we can't have it. But we had the purchase and sell agreement, and we'll get that signed and transfer the ownership of that property to the new owner. So I think Buildings and Grounds and Public Works is cheering right now, getting that off our hands, but also looking forward to potentially the redevelopment of that school into housing for the community. Guess maybe the last thing I have for tonight, we need to schedule an orientation meeting. Now, the choices I think are to me simple. We could take a Saturday and go through everything that we have planned. And there's going to be a lot of training related to technology, related to open meetings, the whole gamut of that. And we will also have an opportunity for department directors to come in and do a presentation on what they do. This is kind of the first step in the goal setting process, and that'll be the next thing that I'll be wanting you to do is schedule some time for goal setting. Again, the easiest thing from my perspective is a Saturday, but if Saturdays in January are not your cup of tea, then we'll probably have to do a couple evening meetings. So hopefully Saturdays. I will send out to everyone to start this ball rolling so you can look at your calendars and get back to me. Be a part of the selection. So get back to me when I send something out to you. If not, you may get a date that you don't like. But it will be important that everyone show up because I think, one, from the team building standpoint and the goal setting that we're going to be doing, it's important to everyone hear the same information. But also from the training, we want to make sure that you know how to use the devices and the software, everything we've invested in our processes to make it a better process for you, we want to make sure you take full advantage of. So I'll be sending that out. Look forward to it. Get back to me if you would. And that's all I had for the evening.
Thank you. Town Attorney report.
And as always, I have no report tonight.
Thank you. 11 on the agenda is report of special committees. I don't see any. 12 is unfinished business. There is none. 13, new business, the consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda, a resolution regarding setting our town council meetings and a resolution authorizing the mayor to send a letter in support for the HGRE LLC. Any questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
And no questions or concerns. All in favor? 11 in favor, none against. Thank you. 13B is town council appointments. The first one is American 250 Coordinating Committee. A vacancy exists, and the recommendation is for Brandon Jewell. Can I get a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Brandon Jewell.
Move to close nominations.
Motion made to close nominations. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of closing nominations? 11 in favor, none opposed. And by a show of hands, all in favor of Brandon Jewell? 11 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Number 2, Fair Rent Commission. The vacancy, there is a vacancy for a tenant, and the recommendation is Justakis or Justakis. I may have mispronounced that name, so I apologize. Elliman until 6/30/2026.
Nominate Justukas Elliman.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to close nominations?
Motion to close nominations.
And a second.
All in favor of closing nominations? 11 in favor, none against. And all in favor of Justukas Elliman? 11 in favor, none against. Thank you. Number 3, the Housing Authority. Term of office for Mark Zaccaro expires 11/30/2025, and it would be a reappointment. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Can I get a motion to close nominations?
Move to close nominations.
And a second.
All in favor of closing nominations? Thank you. 11 in favor and none against. And all in favor of Mark Zaccaro for the Housing Authority? 11 in favor, none against. Next one is Inland Wetlands and Water Courses Agency. There is a vacancy for an alternate member, and the recommendation is for Christopher Lataki.
I'd like to make that recommendation for Christopher Lataki.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made
Move
and
to close
seconded.
nominations.
Second.
All in favor of closing nominations? 11 in favor, none against. All in favor of Christopher Lataki? 11 in favor, none against. Just stop me if there's any discussion, ladies and gentlemen. Number 5, Patriot Ward Committee. It is the recommendation, there's a vacancy, and recommendation is Brandon Jewell until 7/31/2027.
I'd like to nominate Brandon Jewell.
Second.
Thank you.
Move to close nominations.
Second?
Motion's made and seconded to close nominations. All in favor of closing nominations? 11 in favor, none against. No discussion. All in favor of Brandon Jewell for the Patriot Award Committee? 11 in favor, none against. Number 6, Patriot Award Committee. This is another vacancy. The office of Kelsey McGuire Bruce is expiring on 7/31/2025, and it'd be a reappointment for Ms. Bruce.
So moved.
And a second?
Move to close nominations.
Second.
Thank you. Motion to close the nomination was made and seconded. All in favor of closing nominations? 11 in favor, none against. And all in favor of Kelsey McGuire Bruce for the Patriot Award Committee? 11 in favor, none against. I believe, right, Linda? Yes, okay. 11 in favor, none against. Number 7, Planning and Zoning Commission. The term of office of Kenneth Helinski expires 12/31/2025. This would be a reappointment.
I'd like to reappoint Ken Helinski.
Okay.
Second?
Move to close nominations.
And a second?
Motion is made and seconded to close nominations. All in favor of closing nominations? 11 in favor, none against. Any discussion? All in favor of Ken Helinski for a reappointment on Planning and Zoning? 11 in favor, none against. Thank you. And last one, number 8, Planning and Zoning as well. The term of office of Vincent Grillo expires 12/31/2025. Recommendation is Chris D'Antonio.
So moved. I want to nominate Christy Antonio.
And a second?
First and seconded.
Move to close nominations. Oh,
Second?
Sure. So, any other nominations? Is that what you're asking? No? Okay. Before we close nominations or after? Okay. Go right ahead.
Just a general comment. Just for the people at home that are watching, when the positions expire and we've just had an election, just so people understand the process here, the majority party obviously takes seats that they're entitled to take, just like when the Republicans had the majority, we took seats on planning and zoning that the Democrat seats expired. This is what's happening here, and I just want to point out that Vincent Grillo did a great job on planning and zoning. It's no reflection of the person that we're not reappointing. This is simply the process that normally happens when the majority switches on the council. So I just wanted to take a moment and thank Vinnie Grillo for his service on planning and zoning, and no reflection on the job he did or not wanting to reappoint. So that being said, I just want to thank him for that.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you to Vincent Grillo, and Chris D'Antonio is currently an alternate, so we're moving him into a regular member seat.
I just wanted to reiterate Councilor Hall's comments. It is absolutely not a reflection on Mr. Grillo's competency. Certainly, there's now a seat for an alternate, and it would be wonderful if he was so desired to continue to serve in this capacity, he could do it in that capacity. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Hall. So I think we had a motion and a second to close nominations. So all in favor of closing nominations? 11 in favor, none against. We've already had the discussion, so all in favor of Chris D'Antonio? 11 in favor, none against. Thank you very much. All right. C on the agenda is the Facade Programs Guidelines and Application Review. So there's not necessarily a resolution, it's just a recommendation. Oh, there is a resolution. It says, be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council hereby adopts the guidelines and application as amended for the facade and building improvements forgivable loan program, date prepared 11/17/2025 by Economic Community Development.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, and thank you. Aaron, you're up.
Good evening, everybody. It is great to see some new faces. Congratulations and all that sort of thing. The guidelines in front of you are for dollars that were appropriated out of the tax increment financing fund. $500,000 was appropriated out of that and set aside, and we needed to create the program. Some folks may remember that previously there had been a facade program. We used some of those examples, plus we also talked with East Hartford and a few other communities that had experience with these kinds of facade programs. And facade's a bit of a fancy French term. It has that little curly Q at the bottom of the C. It just means the front of the building that faces the public way. So the goal of this is improvements to buildings that are the outsides of them, not improvements in the interior that may not be seen by the public. The goal is to improve the look of the community. There are two questions within these guidelines. Generally, the guidelines are pretty straightforward, how the process will work. This is a 0% interest loan that is forgivable. So it reduces by 20% over the course of 5 years. So if they leave that location, or if it's not by business owner, it's by the owner of the building. So if the owner of the building were to sell that building after 3 years, they would still owe 40% of the returned amount, and then that would go back into our kitty to be used for other projects. So there are two questions that are on there. One is if this program should be restricted to Census Tract 4806, which is the census tract that is Thompsonville. This program can only be used within the TIF district. And just to make sure folks remember, the TIF district includes Thompsonville and the area around the mall. So we could just leave it as the TIF district and be done with it, and that's fine. And we could, in theory, have somebody make an application from somewhere over near to the mall in some of those areas that fall within the TIF district for these dollars. That's perfectly legitimate. I don't have a problem with it. But there was a conversation about potentially restricting it to 4806 just within the Thompsonville district. That's a point of conversation that we wanted to clarify. And the second item was what review authority would be responsible for receiving the applications. The applications would be received into our office. We would make sure that they are correct and filled out and all the materials are provided, and then we have to send them on to a review committee. The town has multiple committees that could possibly fit this. One that came up was the Loan Review Committee. That isn't quite applicable here because it's not exactly a loan like we would have for a first-time home buyer type of situation. The second could be Economic Development Commission, which has received these kinds of applications before. But again, this being specific in the TIF area, we also have the Tax Increment Financing Advisory Committee that would review these. That probably makes the most sense to me, but again, is a point of conversation for you all, whether or not there's a benefit. If this program were town-wide, I would absolutely be leaning towards Economic Development Commission. But because it's the TIF district only, the TIF Advisory Committee potentially could make more sense. But I'm happy to answer questions on the program and clarify anything, but those were the two major questions that we wanted to resolve.
Okay, so just for clarification, before we actually go and vote on the resolution, we're sort of looking for a consensus to the answer of those two questions. Nothing needs to be amended, right? Because there's nothing in the resolution regarding these two. I'm assuming it's in the draft, but you just need a consensus from us, and then we vote on the resolution as written.
I would say we probably should make reference that you changed what was presented to you in that. So it would just, the motion may be, as it says there, as amended. And you might want to clarify what those amendments are, just
Okay.
for the record.
We can do that, that's fine. So I just had one question. So is it your recommendation for the second question that it go to TIF? That's your recommendation?
Staff would encourage that, just because that group has the most experience with the TIF area versus the wider community.
Okay. And I know we have a couple members of TIF. It's Marie and John. So I don't know if you guys have anything. Do you wanted to add first? Feel free.
So thank you, Aaron. I think that I think this was originally intended that we would do this in Thompsonville, and I think that we should focus this facade improvement in that census tract and not the broader TIF area. That would just be my opinion. I strongly believe also that it should be the TIF committee and not economic development, only because on TIF, we have a representative from economic development. We have a representative from planning and zoning. We have a representative from inland wetlands.
Conservation Commission.
Conservation. So there's all these other committees that are part of TIF plus council. I think because there's a cross-section, that's the better committee than economic development in this case. And so I'll let Councilor Pisner comment, and then I'm happy to propose an amendment to this, depending on what you have to say.
Sure. We can go to Councilor Pisner and then
Okay,
Councilor
no,
Casati.
I'm in full agreement. I mean, we discussed this in TIF. I think it makes most sense to do that. And as we have been discussing, going up towards Northgate, but that's going to be a completely different, separate project.
Yep.
So I think this money was promised for here. It's what our focus is. So I agree it needs to stay here. I just had one question. On the very last page, on number 3, the demographic information, I don't remember seeing that before as part of the application. The following is used for statistical purposes only. I don't remember ever seeing that before, Aaron.
Yeah, this is internal numbers, basically for us to track how these dollars are being used, which groups are receiving them. Oftentimes, this is important for grant tracking and whatnot. It was something that came out of the East Hartford application. Honestly, you know, we can review that and see if we really need to be collecting that. If we don't collect it at all, that's okay too.
I just was something new.
Yeah.
When I saw this, I said, well, I don't remember us even discussing this, because I think anybody should be able, I don't want people to say, oh, well, I don't fall into these categories or something. And I don't want it to stop
Understood.
people from applying. That's all.
Absolutely. We wouldn't want to stop
looking at.
anyone from
Okay.
applying
That's
either.
the only-
It's just more of a tracking thing.
It was just something that caught my eye because I didn't see
That's
it
fair.
before. But no, I'm in agreement with Councilor Santinella, so thank you.
Councilor Casati?
Yeah. How you doing, Aaron?
Good.
To me, it does not matter if it goes to the TIF Advisory Committee or Economic Development. You know, what role does Economic Development Commission have? You know, are they going to be, you know, what's their role compared to, you know, why is this group not going to be part of this, with the exception of what you said, there's one member from Economic Development Commission that's on TIF?
That's correct. Rich Stroini,
Just
yeah.
one?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. So if it's your recommendation, I'll go by your recommendation. I don't have an issue one way or another. My only thing is, what does the Economic Development Commission, what's their role? All right, but you don't have to answer that now.
That's fair.
Okay. The other thing that I'm asking is, in terms of the TIF district, is where the Thompsonville Village is, all right, to the east side, crossing Elm Street, is that considered the TIF district? Now, there's some facades that could use some work that go out to High Street, okay?
Yep.
Is that going to be also, those people are going to be eligible to apply? I mean, if you're looking at improvement, you have to look at that area also. So I just want you to think about it.
Yep.
And then also, North Thompsonville, going up to Mass, you know, that is our gateway right there. Is that going to be included within that facade program? Because there's many businesses there that could also apply to that. And I know that your commission, your Economic Development Commission, has talked about that. And I don't want to see them being excluded of a project of this magnitude. If we're going to consider doing facades that are going to be a gateway to Connecticut, North Thompsonville, and then also extending out towards High Street, that part there.
So I'll give you a couple of different answers to your points.
Yeah.
The area 4806, that census tract is from Enfield Street towards the river. So anything on this side of Enfield Street, all the way down to Franklin. So that's 4806. So it would be within that.
I get that. I totally understand that.
And
My
then-
question is that other part, is there going to be an exception to that for those businesses to be able to apply?
So
That's my question.
the north end of Thompsonville has been a very hot topic of conversation in the TIF district, in the TIF committee. We are currently starting the process of looking at establishing a TIF district for that area. It is not included in the TIF district currently. There was a limitation on the amount of space that we could include, and it was set up for those two areas, around the mall and the Thompsonville area. So now there is a conversation about creating a new district, a new TIF district that would be on that north end for exactly the purposes you're looking for exactly these kinds of programs, so that we can spend this type of money on there. And that will require, Economic Development Commission was going to be involved in that, and there is reporting back and forth between the two committees. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
That's my main concern here.
Yep.
Yep.
Anything else, Councilor Crisati?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything on this side? No? Did Councilor Zanoni?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So a few questions. For windows, now I noticed that you prioritize sustainability. Is there a specific, are you still looking for like period windows when they file for an application?
That's a great question. So if anybody knows anything about me, my degrees are in historic preservation, so I always get a little bit sidetracked on that sort of topic. Restoring your windows is going to be more efficient than buying new as a general response. However, this area is not a historic district. It does not have any review authority. There's not any of that thing. What we are looking at is to follow kind of best practices rather than specifics. So somebody may come in with an application and lay out the types of windows that they want to have. That's where the review authority, whatever that choice is, will be looking at them and saying, does this fit in generally? Are they willing to approve that? This program requires the matching dollars. It requires all sorts of other things. So, if somebody, I'm trying to think, somebody comes in and they want to replace the entire front wall of their property that currently has two windows with a giant plate glass window. This group may say, that doesn't fit with what we're going for with this program. Can you go this direction? And they'll work with that applicant. And staff will certainly work with them as well. But we're not putting down a specific requirement on a type of window, a low E, double pane, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking, like, if you remember where the windows they put into the Hazardville Institute, not the Hazardville Grammar School.
Okay, yeah.
Which are like a fiberglass window, and it's really not contiguous to what the property was supposed to be. But when they replaced the windows up at the Montgomery Tinsel Factory, I know that they made them double paned, but they were period specific, and so I think that's a benefit when we're looking.
There's a lot of great options out there, and I think part of this has to, we certainly want to be cognizant of the balance between cost and efficiency and all of those kinds of issues. So there may be some great opportunities to look at some neat products.
And now my second question is, I know Economic Development Commission has an opportunity for public comment, and that maybe Councilor Deputy Mayor Santinella can answer that. Does TIF have an opportunity for public comments so that people can provide feedback on this? Because personally, I think it's important for any redevelopment effort that we have public feedback, and I think that this is inherently redevelopment efforts, even if it's individual storefronts, and I think that having public input on that could be helpful.
We don't typically do it. I will say, just so folks know, they are publicly noticed. They're at 3:30 downstairs in the Skidco room. We're changing our schedule next year to the first Thursday. I don't know if we've finalized that. But anyways, those are publicly available and people can attend them. We have had people attend them in the past, and we're a bit of a loose group. We tend to chat and discuss, but I don't know that we've specifically ever had public comment. I mean, it's certainly
So if I could point out that ultimately these will come back to council for final approval. So there will be an opportunity in the approval process for that public input.
Excellent point. These are all going to be recommended for approval, and council has the final authority on them.
And to that point, if it was to come to council and the council wanted to make modifications rather than outright decline it, we could send it back?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is temporary features, including landscaping, would you consider trees temporary features?
Not really. This is where things are going to get a little squishy in the review process to see what people bring forward. We're trying to avoid things that have very short shelf lives. We want to see permanent types of things, so trees could in theory, but just having somebody put up a row of evergreens, that may not be the goal of the Thompsonville area. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Those are all my questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hall.
Just a quick comment more to what Bob was bringing up. I love the idea that you're going to look at other areas of town for TIF. And when you do that, there was originally a whole Northgate architectural renderings that
Yep.
we did many years ago
Yep.
when we did the Hazardville streetscape. We did the Northgate at the same time. So we have those plans all drafted and probably can dust them off a little bit. But I'd love you to just go into the other areas of town too, not just Northgate. I'd like to see Hazardville have the opportunity, maybe Skidco. There's some storefronts up that way that really need help. So I just collectively, I think looking at the whole town when you start looking to expand the TIFs is a great idea. So.
Yeah, and just for everybody's perspective, and again, this is the kind of conversation that can take hours to explain TIF districts to some of our newer council members, but there is a restriction, has to be 10% of the value of the property within the community, and so it was currently at about 7% or something, but the values have obviously changed. So John and I have to do some major calculations to get there. But indeed, there was a plan that was developed for Hazardville, Skidco, and then we have exactly what you said, have dusted off those Northgate plans. They came up to the surface whenever planning office was moving next door, and I have them right in my office. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? So, go ahead, Matt.
Before you get to any motions, looking through the draft, it already calls out the Thompsonville area code. So
806.
yeah,
The census district.
yeah,
Oh, census district.
Census
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So you won't have to amend that,
Okay.
but the committee to review it will be the only amendment.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So, does it sound like we have consensus for TIF? And everyone is comfortable with the Census Tract 4806? Okay. Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Okay, so I'm going to propose an amendment that says, be it further resolved, all applications for funding under this program shall be referred to the TIF committee for consideration.
Second.
That answers your question?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion on the amendment? Let's vote on, all in favor of the amendment? 11 in favor, none against. All right, so back to the main motion. Any further discussion on that? Sensing none, roll call, please. Thank you, Erin.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
Councilor Hall.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Matthews.
4.
Councilor Pisner.
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Councilor Thomas.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Zanoni.
4.
And Councilor Allegro.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Item D, resolution regarding supplemental funding for 98 Prospect Street. And be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made from grant-funded projects in the amount of $175,000 to Brownfield 98 Prospect Street in the amount of $43,000 and $132,000. Date prepared 11/20/2025 by Economic and Community Development.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Aaron, Matt, all right, Aaron, you're up again.
Yeah, go ahead. You're there.
Okay.
Give us an overview.
Yeah, you all may remember 98 Prospect Street was a property that was acquired by the town through, I believe it might have been the blight process. The site was remediated through funding from the Brownfields program, I think 2016 or 2017. And then the property was sold to Kelly Fredette. Kelly Fredette has the property now. They were seeking additional funding to finish the capping process, essentially putting down a layer of paving. And the trick of the project is that the original funding was through the town. So it has to actually come through the town, and we have to do the work. We have to put that out for bid. And they are able to award up to 50% of the original award in supplemental funding. So the original amount was, I don't have all my notes on this, was 550?
Yep, 550.
Was 550, so they can award up to 50% of that 550 in supplemental funding to pay for the costs of brownfields, because we know brownfield programs can get expensive. And so they have already awarded those dollars. The state has granted that supplemental expansion, and now this is just the acceptance, essentially, of those dollars to move through our system so we can go out to bid. We had to work and get a access agreement so that the town can actually go onto their property and finish the paving. This will also pay for the final environmental reviews and closeouts through tie and bond.
Thank you. Anything in addition, Matt? No? Any questions? Sensing none. Thank you, Aaron. Roll call, please.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Zanoni.
4.
And Counselor Allegro.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Item E, resolution increasing the Registrar of Voters election workers' pay rate per hour. We have a table, we have information in our packet, and be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 5, Section 14 of the Town Charter, the rates of pay for the following election workers will be increased to the following. Checkers, ballot clerks, tabulator tenders, and demonstrators are $17.50 per hour effective January 1, 2026. Be it further resolved that in accordance with Chapter 5, Section 14 of the Town Charter, the rates of pay for the following election workers will be increased to the following. Head moderator, $24 per hour effective January 1, 2026. Moderators, $21 per hour effective January 1, 2026. Assistant registrars and moderators, $19 per hour effective January 1, 2026. Date prepared 11/18/2025 by the Registrar of Voters. Thank you. Matt, you want to go first?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll set the table for you.
Sure.
So it's my understanding that during the budget process for this current year's budget, raises for these different positions within the Register of Voters operation were approved to go into the budget. But unfortunately, there was not the council authorization to actually enact that, because in the end, council has to approve those increases through a separate resolution. And so this is kind of catching up to what was done and talked about in the budget to get it functional now.
Beth, Tom, you guys have anything?
Oh, yeah, we got tons.
Well,
First is congratulations to everybody.
I'm gonna give you 2, no, I'm just kidding. Go right ahead.
Congratulations to everybody. We were up close and personal with the whole election process, and want to thank you guys for conducting a nice, smooth election on your end. We come before you tonight because we always try to keep ahead of the workers. So as minimum wage goes up, we in the past, when Lou and I have come before you, we have tiered up to stay just ahead of the minimum wage. The workers do a fantastic job. They're very hard to get. A lot of them, because of the way we treat them and the love for the town, stay for many, many years. So we want to make sure that stays obviously going forward. And now with early voting, the stress level on staffing is a lot higher because we have to basically have 14 elections and then have another election. So it gets to be crazy. For a couple of points for this election, more for the public than for you guys, but for you as well. There's been a lot of discussion out there in the last mainly year or two about turnout for municipal elections. And I just kind of want to set the record totally straight because the numbers are crazy to look at, and depending on what numbers you look at, you get the wrong numbers. In Enfield, as someone leaves the town, as someone passes away, they come off the voter rolls during canvass or when they die. Then what happens is if you go in and look in the system at the numbers of past elections, you see skewed numbers because it raises the percentage of participation, thinking there's less people than there actually was at that time. So the only way to truly get that number is to call our office, and we actually have to pull up the actual results in our system for the night of the election, which compares how many people voted to how many people actually were registered to vote. So just to give you four quick numbers, in 2019, turnout was 26.5% of registered voters. In 2021, it was 30.3% of registered voters. In 2023, did I just say 2023? 2023, it was 29.6, and this current, the one we just finished, was 33.7. So it always hangs between 25 and 35% over the last couple of decades, but those are the numbers. We're here to ask you for the pay increases for the workers. Beth, you wanted to add some?
She basically covered that.
Yeah.
No, we were trying to stay ahead a little bit above the minimum wage because in January it's going up to 16, I believe.
94.
1694. So we were looking at raising our minimum pay rate for 1750 for our workers and then going up from there. And it is in our budget. We have budgeted around for the year so that our workers are valued and they do get paid. Because we do appreciate all their time and all their work that goes into the election, which is not easy, and it's very long hours, so especially on election day.
Crazy long. One of the things we wanted to ask, too, is not for this meeting, but for the future, somehow, Matt, if we could figure out a way to take this grant money that we acquire every year, that we never know what it's going to be until it's way, way past the budget, so we can never put it in the budget, but it comes. This year, we got $18,000 in change for the election that we just ran and upcoming referendum if we have one. But we never see the money. It goes into the general fund. What I'd like to do and what Beth would like to do is have that money get reserved right when it comes in on our budget as an income that's non-spendable unless we come to council to spend it for the reasons it was required. Because right now, at the end of the year, I have to submit documentation to the state that says, how did I spend this money? That A, I didn't know how much I was getting, and B, how do I calculate that? I know what I got for payroll, I know what I have for expenses related to the election, but if it came in on the budget, we would at least be able at the end of the year to say, here's the money, here's where it went, now this is going back to the town, whatever was left, and then absolve it. And I don't know how to do that, but I had a talk with John about it, and we were going to noodle on it. This year coming up, we're going to get another grant, but we don't know what it is, and we probably won't see it until October. So it won't go into the budget. The dollars that we're asking for tonight are not including the grant we already received. So we had the money in the budget to spend for this increase before the grant that we got. I know there's been some confusion about that. It's good, and that's another reason why we want to put it in the budget so that it's out there for everybody to see.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
Any questions?
Any questions for Tom or Beth? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Any additional discussion or questions? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Sakala?
4.
Councilor Crisati?
4.
Councilor Hall?
4.
Councilor Mangini?
4.
Councilor Matthews?
4.
Councilor Pisner?
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella?
4.
Councilor Thomas?
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Zanoni.
4.
And Counselor Allegro.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Again, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Item 13F is next, a resolution to abate property taxes at 723 Enfield Street. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council hereby abates the real estate tax interest and fees due on 723 Enfield Street for the Grand List 2022 to $9,993.39 and reduces the real estate tax interest and fees for 2023 Grand List to 0. Date prepared 11/20/2025 by John Wilcox.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I don't know if John needs to come up, but just very briefly, this was a recommendation that was unanimously voted on to come up to the council by the prior general government subcommittee. So Faith Lane came, I think, for 2 meetings. I believe they came to 2 meetings. They bought property under an LLC at the advice of their council. They bought a church. That LLC, that had something to do with COVID funds, and the way their bank wouldn't allow them as a church to purchase, so they had to do it as an LLC, which created this issue with the taxes. They worked with the town assessor's office, and a year or 2 went by, and thus here we are. They presented to general government. I know our assistant town manager was there. John was there, and at that time it was Councilor Ludwig, myself, and Councilor Hendrickson, and we unanimously voted to come up with this as a compromise and resolution and bring it to the entire council. I don't know if that was a really broad summary, but I don't know if I missed anything.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The excuse me, state statutes regarding tax exempt properties. It's not just you can't just be a not-for-profit and be exempt. You have to use the property exclusively for an exempt purpose. The property was taken out of use as a church. They acquired it, but they acquired it under a not a form of an LLC, which is not an acceptable form of. There's an acceptable form of business. They converted it, and now it is exempt. And there were a 2-year window where they were not exempt, and the committee recommended or voted to waive 50% of the taxes on the first year.
Correct.
Or reduce it to 50% of the taxes on the first year.
And they have since worked with the assessor's office and gotten all of their documentation, and they are all set there. Questions? Councilor Pisner.
I just have one question. I want to make sure I'm thinking of the same property. So it's the property right over here. It's the Holy Ghost Church, I think is what they're called now. It's
Yeah, 753.
right. The old Polish Iron Cross but it's the Holy Ghost is what the sign is. The Holy Ghost
Yes.
Church. Okay. I thought they were also putting in some kind of a rec center there.
I'm
So
not
it's strict,
aware.
and I mean, again, if it's a church, it's a church. I have no problem with that. But there was something where they were coming forward that they were looking at this for a potential, part of the property would be a potential like recreation center for families to go to.
About a year or so ago, was that?
Yeah,
was that
they were looking
what-
at it.
that
Remember, they
this?
came and they were looking for something from us because they wanted to. And again, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it and make sure, because if it's strictly being a church, I have no problem with this. But if they're going to entertain to use this as something that's profitable, then I.
So
I think going forward,
when
they
they
did that.
going forward, if they were to put a rec center or something like that on there and use it that would be a for-profit purpose, and our assessors would have to treat that accordingly.
Correct.
And that component would be taxed the component that is, if it was used exclusively for the exempt purpose of church, that component would still be exempt, but it would be taxed that way.
So for 2022 and 2023 grand list, it was purely just a church. But you are correct. If that is the same people that you're thinking of, going forward, if that were to happen, then when they resubmit.
I just wanted to verify.
Anything else? Any more discussion? Any more comments? Sensing none, roll call, please.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
Councilor Hall.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Matthews.
4.
Councilor Pisner.
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Councilor Thomas.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Zanoni.
4.
And Councilor Allegro.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
All right, next on the agenda is 13G, resolution authorizing the Senior Volunteer Tax Program for fiscal year 2027. Councilor Crisati.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council hereby reestablishes the Senior Volunteer Tax Credit Program, which provides eligible senior citizens with a property tax credit of up to $400 for taxes due on July 1st, 2026, in accordance with the parameters of the program. Be it further resolved that the program shall be implemented based on the recommendations of the Senior Volunteer Tax Committee as outlined in Attachment A. Be it further resolved that the total program shall be capped at $100,000. In the event that the total cost exceeds this cap, the individual tax credit amount shall be reduced on a prorated basis so that the overall program cost does not exceed the $100,000. Be it further resolved that the volunteer hours performed as part of service of an elected or appointed offices, boards, or commissions of the Town of Enfield and the Board of Education shall not qualify for this tax credit. Date prepared 11/24/2025, prepared by John A. Wilcox.
So moved. Second.
We have a first and a second. Thank you very much, Councilor Crisati. We saved all of the long resolution for you to read, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'll
Sure.
go
Councilor
first.
Crisati?
Yeah. It's nice to see that we're bringing this back up. Once again, the committee did meet, and they did change some parameters to the particular program. And once again, this program here is for volunteers must be 65 or older by December 31st of the calendar year. The volunteer must have owned or occupied a home as a principal residence for 5 years with no pending unpaid principal liens or delinquent real estate taxes. Another thing that the group that was being, any property held in trust, life estates, or partial interest shall fall under the same guidelines pursuant to Section 12-170AA. The trust agreement must be reviewed on an individual basis by the town attorney to determine if it qualifies. And they also upped the hours from 50 hours to a minimum of 75 hours for the calendar year at a nonprofit organization located in the town of Enfield. So the credit is one credit per household, $400. Spouses may contribute toward the 75 hours. And once again, the volunteer coordinator has to verify the hours that were worked. And the senior center staff oversees the program. And once again, you know, as Mr. Young stated, you know, we haven't had enough people qualify, or not qualify, but number of participants to exceed the $100,000. But you never know. And if it does, then things are prorated at that point. But it's good to see this program. I'm in support of it. You know, a few years back when we instituted the program, this was an opportunity for people 65 or older to be getting a tax credit helping within their nonprofit organization. I know that there was some pushback in regard to it, and I know that it didn't get into last year's budget, but I think there's support now to get this program back up running. And if the members need to come together and discuss a few things moving forward to make maybe some amendments to the program, then maybe we could do that. But at this point, I'd like to see the program move forward based on what was passed by the committee. Thank you. And I am definitely going to be in support of this.
Thank you. This was extremely popular, and just so people are aware, it's the 75 hours in the calendar year 2025 applied to your tax bill dated July 1st, 2026 for fiscal year 2027. So it's a lot of numbers and a lot of math, and that really just means that this council will be back here in 6 months or so, 4 or 5 months, to do another resolution for the following year. So if there are any additional things that the committee wants to talk about or amendments, those can be made then, and we can discuss making it sort of something that's annually just done, so we don't have to do a resolution every year. So I did see Councilor Zanoni, and then we can go to Councilor Pisner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am personally incredibly delighted that this program is returning. I think in the state of Connecticut, we have a tax structure that just makes it incredibly hard for seniors to age in place, as we hear with our reval. It just doesn't line up with the cost of living increases that people get for their pensions and their 401ks, and I'm glad this program is moving forward. I think as Councilor Crissati elucidated too, there was concerns about this program, and I think the fact of the matter is it is incumbent upon our town staff to be judicious with ensuring we don't have waste, fraud, and abuse of this program. And we did a lot of efforts to tighten this program to ensure that that's not transpiring in the future. And I think, as our mayor also said, we can make adjustments in the future to ensure that that doesn't transpire if we see something else brought up. So I think it's a good program. I'm proud to support it. My only question, and maybe John, you could answer it, is to answer Mr. Young's point. Given all the applications will be before this council on February 1st, would we need to make any adjustments if it came in under that 100,000 so that we're not overindulging in our mill rate? So if it came in under, so what we would do with the extra $20,000?
Correct. What I do for this, it's an offset of our tax revenue. So it's an adjustment that I make to the amount that we're actually going to collect. So it actually does increase the mill rate slightly. If we knew by the end of February, yes, I could probably take that into account and reduce that. I set it at 100,000. I could reduce that based on what applications actually came in.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking to George's point, if someone came in and we ended up spending around $75,000, then that extra $25,000 we could take out of the calculation into the mill rate, correct?
Yes, we could do that.
Okay, that's my only question. I'm glad to support this program, and I'm glad to see it's back. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Perfect, thank you. Councilor Pisner.
So I look at this program a little differently. The first year it came through, I was a very reluctant no. Because I wanted to see, or yes, I should say, I was a reluctant yes. Because I wanted to see how it panned out. And when I saw how many people volunteered, and then saw a breakdown of what they considered volunteering, I was appalled. Someone who passes a basket at church is not volunteering. Someone who belongs to a social club is not volunteering. It just, to me, does not constitute volunteering. And George, you said it very nicely. When the program went away, everybody just said, oh, forget it, I'm not going to volunteer. And they gave up. Volunteers don't give up. Volunteers give of themselves to make their community a better place to live, or to share their time with someone to make their life better for no compensation. This is compensating people to be nice, and I don't agree with it. We have 7,700 seniors over 65. I got that number today from Matt. 5.7 of them live below the poverty line. What are we doing to help those people who can't get out and volunteer? Because some of them don't drive anymore. Some of them are sick or taking care of a sick spouse. So to me, this alienates a whole group. I would rather see this money go towards really helping people who financially need the help. The over 65 out there that are struggling, who need the help. Put this through a social service program to help somebody who falls this much below the line. Because I can tell you there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of them that are living out there that don't know how they're going to pay for their medicine or their food, but they make just that much more, so they can't qualify for any of our programs. And you see them, Maya, coming in to spread their dollars out at Loaves and Fishes. Those are the people I want to help. The people that are trying, are over 65s that are trying. This, to me, does not constitute helping them. And again, volunteering, you don't get compensated for it.
I had Councilor Mangini. Thank you very much. Councilor Mangini and then Councilor Matthews.
Thank you. I most definitely am going to support this program. I think that it was a mistake for us to have lost it, and I have to totally disagree with my colleague Marie over here, because Marie, with all due respect, you're mixing apples and oranges. These are people, volunteers, that want to engage in social activities with others. And yes, they do want the financial piece, but more importantly, they're helping their neighbors. They're helping themselves develop a sense of need, which is extremely important. You can't put a price tag on that. So when we look at the program, we look at the whole program. We look at the fact that we are, compensating a person for putting in the hours, but we're also applauding that person for giving of him or herself to help others, and in turn, it makes them feel better about themselves. That's what we want. We want people to be engaged in our community. That's what it's all about. So I think we need to take a step back and say, what is the purpose of the program? Yes, there's a financial piece. And I think also, in addition to that, we have to look at the social aspect and the value. You can't put a price tag on value.
Thank you. Thank you. I know how to volunteer.
Yes, because my volunteers I see every day that I still see, even though this tax program went away. This just ended up being an extra added bonus for them. And I definitely want to make clear that my volunteers aren't retiring on millions of dollars, and they can use every single little break that they can get. Just like I'm pretty sure the majority of folks can use every single little bit of a break that they can get. And it should be part of our responsibility to make things easier for all of our residents, even regardless of what situation they're in. Just because they can drive themselves to volunteer doesn't mean that they're doing great in life and they don't need the extra leg up. Now, as for those people that can't volunteer, I don't think this should be an either-or thing. We should be helping those folks out as well. We should be helping out absolutely everybody we can help out that's within our power to do so. So I think we just need to find more programs like this and not just limit it to something like this. There are plenty of people in many different situations, and all of us need a little bit of a break. So I say bring on more of these.
Thank you. Councillor Hall?
So I actually agree with Marie and Maya. I think you both make really great points. For me, this isn't comprehensive enough, and I think there needs to be a lot more work that goes into it, in my opinion. I think for a lot of the reasons that Marie mentioned, I think we're leaving out a huge part of our senior population that truly needs the help. I don't think this hits enough people, and I'm willing to put more money behind this program if we can look at it more comprehensively. I think this looks at it through a very narrow window that I think we're picking and choosing who we're supporting here. I think it needs to be a lot more broader, and it needs to cover a lot more seniors for me to support this. I think this is a very targeted group. I'm not saying there aren't people in here deserving. I'm sure there are, but I think there needs to be some major changes to this, and I would be willing to put it through a budget process during budget discussions. But as it sits, I think this is way too narrow for me to support. I think we need a much more comprehensive look for all our seniors that are over 65. So that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you. Councilor Ungary and then Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Thank you. I do want to point out that I do appreciate the changes that have been made and that people did take another look at it. But I think we can make more changes, and I was kind of hoping it could go to a committee and really fine tune it a little bit more. But it's a nice option to offer to our seniors that really need the help. But I'd like to see it a little more fine tuned.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Yeah, I think this was an example of a program that was incredibly well-intentioned, and when, some things happened that came to people's attention, like someone doing work that people didn't necessarily think was volunteer work, instead of making the program better, making it work better, we just got rid of it altogether. And, I think that's the knee-jerk reaction of just get rid of it instead of trying to improve it. And I think now we have a second shot at doing this. And I think that is the intention, is to reinstate the program, look at some of these things, look at some of the things that people are claiming to be doing that may not necessarily fall into the true spirit of what is intentioned. And, just as we eliminated some things about town boards and commissions being excluded, we could have gone on and on with the resolution, but I think we should leave that to the committee to ultimately refine this and make this a robust program. But you can't make a program more robust if you eliminate it altogether. So I think this is a great start, and I'm glad that it's coming back, and I think we have seniors who are excited that it's coming back, and I look forward to this evolving into its next iteration. So I look forward to voting for it.
Thank you. Councilor Crissati?
Yeah, just one final comment. There has been a comment that was made about because this program was eliminated, they stopped volunteering. Well, I totally disagree with that. I still think that people who have volunteered, they're still volunteering because that's what they like to do. And if they can follow the guidelines that were presented here for them to be able to get this benefit, I think that's going to definitely help them all. I'm all for reinstituting the particular program. I am open to making some sort of modification so that we don't have to come back every single year to have to do this. Are we going to have the program or we're not going to have the program? So, but once again, There's many people that are out there volunteering, and I totally disagree with the comment that was made that people stopped volunteering because of this program being eliminated. If anything, I think I've seen more people volunteer now than what they have done in the past. It's my own opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I think this was a very well-intentioned, like Deputy Mayor Santinella said. I'm happy that it's coming back. I did hear a lot of discussion on maybe ways we can expand it, maybe ways we can make it more inclusive to more seniors, which I think would be wonderful if we need to up the amount next time. I think maybe doing some work to see in the next 6 months or so how we can improve this program. There's nothing preventing us from doing that, and I think that that's a wonderful idea. So I am all for this. I'm going to support it, and I would also support making additional inclusions, modifications, or whatever changes that we need to in the future to make it a better, more successful, more inclusive program to include more of the seniors that we may not know about who need that extra support. So, roll call, please, Sheila.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
Councilor Hall.
Against.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Matthews.
4.
Councilor Pisner.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Councilor Thomas.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
Against?
Councilor Zanoni.
4.
And Councilor Allegro.
4.
8 in favor, 3 against.
Thank you, John. All right, item 16H, resolution to settle property tax assessment appeal for 30.9 acre parcel on North Street. We do have a resolution that is a little different than the one, was there one in the actual, there was one in the actual packet. So we do have one that the numbers are filled out, so I'm gonna read that one. I assume that one will be amended to the minutes. Thank you. So, be it resolved that the town council does hereby authorize the office of the town attorney to settle the outstanding tax assessment appeal in the following action. Catholic Cemetery Associations of the Archdiocese of Hartford Incorporated versus Town of Enfield, the fair market value of the 30.09 acre parcel of North Street to be reduced to $1.6 million. Date prepared November 24, 2025 by the Office of the Town Attorney.
So moved.
First and seconded. We did discuss this prior. I don't know if there's any additional comments. I don't know if there's any from Mark, anything from you?
No, I believe that the resolution is self-explanatory.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, sensing no discussion, roll call, please.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
Councilor Hall.
4.
Councilor Mangini.
4.
Councilor Matthews.
4.
Councilor Pisner.
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Councilor Thomas.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Zanoni.
4.
And Councilor Allegro.
4.
11 in favor, none against.
Thank you. Item 14 on the agenda, items for discussion. There are none. 15, any other business proper to come before said meeting? There is none. Public communications. 16, anybody in the audience want to come up and talk to us again? 17, councilor communications. I would just like to say thank you again for an efficient but actually very respectfully nice and good discussion meeting. I appreciate that. I hope that continues into perpetuity, actually. Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Yeah. Through the mayor to the town manager, since the finance director is here, we had talked a little bit ago about setting up a sinking fund for the debt. And I just want to get that on the agenda sometime soon. And I meant to bring it up earlier, and I forgot. So I'm not sure what the process is for that, but I'd like to see that happen sooner rather than later. Other than that, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I hope to see a lot of you at the Jingle Jam on Friday night, and I hope you're feeling better by then, Marie. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor? 11 in favor, none against. Have a good night.